Well, I have 7:30, so if we can get started. Ryan, you're good on the film back there? Okay. Mr. Heap, you can hear me? Very good. Thank you, sir. Alrighty. Thank you, everybody, for coming. September 21st. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, I wish to announce that the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the school districts of the Chatham's Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, place thereof posted in the Board Administrative Offices, sent to the clerks of the Chatham Borough and Chatham Township, the Library of the Chathams, the Chatham Courier, the Daily Record, the Star Ledger, and TAP. Mr. DeQuilla, would you mind taking attendance?
Sure. Mr. Gilfillan, Mr. Arnick, Ms. Ciccarelli. Here. Ms. Clark. Here. Ms. Kenny. Here. Mr. Ryan. Here. Mr. Smith. Here. Mr. Valenti. Here. And Ms. Weber.
Here.
7 present and accounted for.
If you're able, please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Virtually, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. This is a rare occasion that I actually do have some president's comments. I think in the last 7 years I can count on one hand how many times I've actually had comments at the beginning of a meeting. But I did want to comment on the events recently that resulted in the superintendent's decision to switch the high school to be 100% remote learning for 2 weeks. As many of you know, there were newly reported cases of COVID, mostly isolated to our high school building, that were likely the result of social gatherings that happened prior to the start of school. While this is certainly less than ideal, I did want to acknowledge all the students that came forward and worked with the high school administration and the Department of Health and followed the process and the guidelines. Their actions to report their status and self-quarantine resulted in reducing transmission and preventing additional new cases beyond those that attended the social gatherings. I've also read some posts and received some notifications and some emails that folks feel that the students should somehow be penalized or punished for their actions having attended the social events to begin with. Now, as you know, we're a school board, so we're constantly surrounded by adolescents. And teenagers are just amazing people. They're just upbeat, they're can-do attitude, they're fearless, they're full of life. But one of their other endearing qualities of being teenagers is they're not known to make perfect decisions 100% of the time. And it's a scientific fact that sometimes teenagers make decisions that put their own well-being at risk. Educators, I'm looking at Karen Chase over there, educators constantly tell me that the part of the brain that's used for reasoning and weighing decisions is still developing in adolescence. So it's part of growing up, it's part of finding their independence, and it's part of our job to help them navigate those risky decisions. Was it the best decision? Absolutely not. But there were if we can remember, there's 265 other residents that tested positive for COVID-19. Probably another 100 that were positive but just couldn't get a test just because of the circumstances. And nobody was looking to punish them. So we're not going to be punishing any students that reported that they tested positive or that they're following the guidelines. And just to take it one step further, the newspapers also reported that some parents may have also played a role in the increased number of cases. Again, was it ideal? Absolutely not. But I have mirrors in my house, and I, for one, have done things that I regret and wished I could take back. And I'm willing to bet that there's some folks around the table that agree, and they've also done some things that maybe they regret and wish they could take back. So I'm asking folks to be a little patient, look inside themselves, show a little compassion, and chances are the folks that maybe didn't show the best judgment already regret it, and we don't really need to pile on. And our worlds have been turned absolutely upside down, and school with the virus, and schools included. I have probably talked to Mike, Dr. LaSousa, 3 or 4 times a week since March, and the conversation always ends, this absolutely stinks. And to be perfectly honest, my language is much more crass than that, but This is not an ideal situation. We are doing the best we can. But my point is, if we have any hope at all of succeeding and staying in school, we're going to need to work together. I mean the school districts, I mean the parents, I mean residents in town. We're just going to have to band together and find a path forward. So if we can, let's remember what we mean by we are Chatham. Let's do this together, and let's show other folks around Chatham what we're made of and how we're going to pull this off and move forward in a positive manner. So thank you for your time on that, and I'm going to pass it over directly to Dr. LaSousa for the Superintendent's Report.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. Excuse me. I begin all of my administrative team meetings by asking the group if they have any good news to share. And sometimes when I ask that question, there are some shakes of the heads and rolling of the eyes because we're dealing with something, or we're at a time of the year where stress is high and everyone's busy, and it's tough to muster some good news. But if you look hard enough, there's always good news all around. So I'm going to start with some good news in my report. I'll offer up three bits of good news. The first is that a month ago, I wasn't sure we were going to open schools at all. We were facing some headwinds at the time, and as I'm sure everyone knows, roughly 40% of districts in New Jersey have not opened yet this school year. And those 40% of districts serve the majority of students in New Jersey. So the majority of students in New Jersey have not set foot into a school building yet this school year. Here we are, and today marks the completion of 2 full weeks of school. We've had some challenges at the high school, obviously, that have been very upsetting and distressing. But 5 of our 6 school buildings have been open for 2 weeks now. And they serve about 2/3 of our students, 2,600 or so students. So that's an accomplishment. And it's been heartwarming for those of us who've been able to go into the schools to see students and teachers and other staff members. It definitely is wonderful to see kids back in schools. That's the first bit of good news. Second bit of good news is we do mark 2 weeks today, and to date we have not had a staff member fall ill. That's critically important because, as we all know, COVID-19 is more likely to result in serious illness for older folks and for folks who might have underlying health conditions than it is for younger folks. And because if we don't have teachers, we can't operate schools at all, period. So it's critically important that we do everything we can to keep our staff members safe and healthy. And plenty of districts in New Jersey to this point have either had to close or quarantine because staff members did fall ill. And fortunately for us, although all of us may face that prospect at some point in the school year, we haven't had to face it yet, despite the challenges that we had at the high school. And then the third bit of good news, and I hope that every parent who might be watching this listens very carefully, our students have been phenomenal. I cannot even tell you the number of accolades and the praise that I am hearing from every single staff member, principal, teacher, counselor, paraprofessional, custodians, security folks. Everyone has been knocked down with the level of cooperation, respectfulness. Our students have just been amazing. And when I tell you inside the schools, it's 100% folks wearing face coverings, keeping their distance as best they can to the degree that that's possible with young students based on their age. The students have just been absolutely dynamite. And I think if it weren't for them, it would have been difficult to kind of imagine schools in the current environment, but it's been great being inside the schools. So I want to give a special shout out to the students. Now shifting gears towards the high school, Ms. Weber, you stole some of my thunder. Obviously, we had a cluster of cases among some of our students. Our health department has been terrific in giving us guidance and in communicating with us and helping sort of show us the way because this is not something that we've ever encountered before. I want to mention just a couple of things about the overall situation and maybe clarify a couple of questions that have arisen in the past couple of weeks. First thing I want to just say is process. On a macro level, the process has functioned the way the process was supposed to function. And there are three players within that process. The parents, and I'll say parents/students because the older the student is, an 18-year-old, a 17-year-old, for example, the more the student is the one who is being forthcoming with information and communicating directly with school staff. So you've got the parents/students, then the school staff, and then the departments of health. Ms. Weber, you hit on something incredibly important, which is that our students have been incredibly forthcoming and eager to help keep their classmates safe and healthy. And the result of the students and their communication with our high school principal, Mr. Groh in particular, in those first 2 days of school being open, helped us reduce the number of students that ever set foot in the school building who may have been exposed to COVID, and helped give us information that we could then supply to our partners in the Department of Health to do their contact tracing and notify families that there could be potential exposure. So it all sort of rests with the parents. If we don't have parents feeling comfortable bringing forward information to us and to the Departments of Health, then the process collapses. And I know of another district or two where that process has collapsed because parents have not been as forthcoming. And it's vital to the entire chain that we get information and we feel trust with one another so that we can mitigate whatever outbreak we might have. So the parents have been terrific and importantly forthcoming with information. They've helped communicate that to us. Karen Leister, who's in the audience, has been our point person with the Departments of Health because she has a nursing background and worked in pediatric oncology before she was a school nurse. And she is able to speak the language of the Departments of Health. And then we have two Department of Health officers, as you know, one for the borough, one for the township. They've been terrific. They've been on the phone with me. One called me yesterday, last night. They've been incredibly receptive, responsive, and communicative with us, which has helped get us through a very stressful period of time. I'd like to just hit on a couple of other items relative to health-related issues that I think are important. So the first thing is general communication about health matters. I'm vetting through the Departments of Health, and I'm going to continue to do that. I feel very comfortable speaking about school and education-related matters, but the letters after my last name on my business card are not MD, and I don't have a degree in public health or epidemiology or anything like that. So the information that I will communicate will be vetted by the Department of Health to ensure that I'm not violating any kind of confidentiality, HIPAA, or anything like that. Connected to that, one of my questions to our health officers a couple of times a couple of weeks ago was, should I, issue a statement to the school community? Should I identify the number of cases that we have? Should I do X, Y, and Z? Should I identify the grade levels of students, so on and so forth? And they both were very firm with me that I shouldn't do that. Reason number one was that they told me early on, Mike, the number of cases will likely change, and as the number changes, if you are constantly chasing your tail trying to update how many cases there may be, that's not the best position for you to be in. And in addition to that, and more important, they explained to me that the Department of Health has an established process for confirming cases, then for contacting those individuals who may be exposed to a case, and then making announcements about the cases. And they felt that the more the school district intruded in any of that process, the more difficult their job would then become. So for that reason, the communication and the details that I'm providing may seem scant to some or To others, maybe it seems like too much, but it aims to strike the balance of what the Department of Health is comfortable with and what is appropriate so that they can do their job effectively, which is the most important thing the most important priority in the whole process. We've also had some questions as we've worked through this, and these are evolving over time. So one has to do with quarantining versus isolating. And just on Friday, the New Jersey Department of Health issued an update, and the update essentially clarified that if Peter here were to test positive for COVID, and I'm Peter's brother, and I live in the same house as Peter, if he tests positive, must isolate for 10 days from either the date of the positive test or the onset of symptoms. And if 10 days goes by and he's fever-free and his symptoms have improved, then he no longer needs to isolate. If I live in the same house as Peter and I'm his brother, the initial guidance was that I had to quarantine while Peter went through his 10 days of isolation, and then I had to quarantine for an additional 14 days after that. And the reason for that is that it is possible that on Peter's 9th or 10th day, he could be infectious, and if I'm living in his house and I am exposed, then I need 14 days beyond that to be sure that I don't infect anyone else. The update on Friday from the New Jersey Department of Health, which Ms. Leister shared with me this morning, is that my 14 days doesn't have to begin on his 10th day of isolation. It begins on my last date when I have close contact with Peter. So if he's my brother, but he has his own bedroom and I have my own bedroom, or I move down to the basement and I never cross paths with him again and we use a separate bathroom and we take every precaution, then my 14 days, my clock begins on my final day of close contact. A second issue that's important is the whole notion of a contact of a contact. So a contact of a contact does not have to quarantine. So let me kind of try to, explain what that looks like. So let's imagine my wife works in an office and someone at my wife's office that she has a lot of contact with, that person tests positive. My wife then has to quarantine because she's a close contact of someone who has tested positive. I do not have to quarantine because I'm a contact of a contact. So when you are once removed, that does not mean that you have to quarantine. And that's just important to recognize because especially early, especially 2 weeks ago when we first were dealing with this cluster of cases, there were a lot of folks asking questions about, well, I heard so-and-so was at this location and so-and-so has a sibling, so therefore the sibling must have to do what so-and-so has to do. And it's complicated. And that's why we need the Department of Health to give us the guidance and the directions that they have received from the New Jersey Department of Health, and that also probably in large part was informed by the CDC. So I just wanted to clarify that too. I think for now that's where I'll stop on this particular subject. I recognize there may be questions, and as I say, Karen Leister is here so that a health, an expert in health can answer some of those questions that I can't. Before we get there, though, I'll just quickly say on these last two bullet points, school reopening, other than that, has gone well overall. We're still working through issues, of course. We've never had a situation where we've got some students in school and some students at home, which we have at every grade level, and we're trying to teach all of those students. That's very challenging and stressful for many of our staff members, but we're trying to work through that. Our enrollment right now is 3904, which is about 120 students fewer than last year at this time. That's primarily the result of the fact that the numbers at kindergarten/first grade for 2-3 years now running have been lower. So now we're starting to see that impact the enrollment overall in the district. And in terms of the typical September, we have some housekeeping items that we haven't quite gotten to yet, which I plan to try to get to this week. They include issues of the school directory, notifications about how school cancellation will work. I was on a call today because there's still a lack of clarification from the state of New Jersey if we can just basically call a remote or virtual day any day we want. I think we kind of need to do that because in a abbreviated schedule like we have, the option of doing a delayed opening or an early dismissal is taken off the table because the day won't count for school. So what I intend to notify the public of is that we will move to an all virtual day if there's a threat of inclement weather that could cause us to be unable to get a day of school in. So that's a little bit down the road. Hopefully the weather will stay nice, but those are all kinds of housekeeping items that we haven't gotten to because the year's been so unusual. But again, overall, a good opening K-8, and hopefully we'll get all of the high school students and staff members back in action on Tuesday, 1 week from tomorrow.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. Great opening to K-8. Fantastic opening. And we look forward to the high schoolers coming back at least half at a time on the 29th. I just wanted to thank Karen for working through the Department of Health and getting additional guidance. We were having a lot of difficulty with the 24 days, the 10 days with the siblings having to then quarantine an additional 14 because they essentially could lose, close to a month of school, because their older sibling wanted to go out and hang out with their friends. So thank you for, I knew that took a lot of time, and, people think we could just wave our magic wand and make a different decision. Everything has to go through Karen, and everything has to go through the Department of Health. Whether we agree with it or not is irrelevant. If they say we have to stand on our head on every Tuesday, then that's what we're going to do. So, it's not that we're powerless, and we can certainly send things back through the chain of command, which is Karen. So if we do have concerns, thank you for those parents that did contact us, and we did follow the process. So there's some movement, but when the Department of Health says it's going to be X, it's going to be X, and there's really no leeway there. But Karen, I just wanted to thank you again for following that up, and some siblings are very thrilled, and you'll probably get extra Christmas cards from them this year. Mike, you said if you have inclement weather, we could go all virtual. Does this mean the concept of a snow day is like dead to us? Please say it isn't so. Like, snow days are for sleigh riding.
You can sleigh ride in the afternoon, but
Like
the idea would be to eliminate the need for a snow day.
All right. Well, we could
At
work.
least for 1 year while we're dealing with this.
Does that mean we get out of school 5 days earlier?
Well, if it would mean, yes, that we have excess days in the calendar according to the contract with the association, and we would
Okay.
somewhere along the line put in additional days off.
Right. My only concern is, I know I'm being somewhat glib about it, but my concern is some of the teachers prefer to teach in the classroom. And if they can't get to school, or there's a hardship because their kids are home, we may need to keep the concept of a snow day. There's other circumstances than just, if our janitorial staff can't get here, and because a lot of teachers are teaching from the classroom, and that's their choice. So let's just keep maybe an open mind on some of the domino effects to just saying it's virtual and there's a blizzard out.
Will do.
So does anybody else have any questions for Mike or Karen on the Department of Health items? No? Oh, great, Mike.
So the concept of a contact, that's been pretty confusing. And, I'm just wondering if contacts of contacts are not in danger of catching COVID, then how did it spread so quickly? If that's true. Can we, I don't know. I don't know if I 100% understand that, the notion that contacts of a contact doesn't have to quarantine.
Well, Karen can certainly jump in at the microphone in the back, but the DOH and CDC guidance is that that's not indicated. I think that's the exact language that they use. Now, again, that's different than if someone in your household tests positive, you have to quarantine.
Yes. No, that's clear. That's clear.
But I think if you go down the rabbit hole of the contact of a contact, you end up basically with everyone is a contact of a contact almost, or you can see how that would mushroom into something that would be totally
Right.
And you could-
massive, but
You could also see that's how it spread. Right.
fair?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. Well, here's to 2 weeks down. We had always said we hope we can get to October, and I don't want to get out over our skis, but we're almost there. Okay, Peter, construction update?
Yes, very briefly, just wanted to report, the only thing I have is that the CMS's nurse room was completed the week before school started, and the CMS nurse, Sue Butler, did a great job getting it all set up, so it was up and running for the beginning of school. And at CMS also, the students who are using the auditorium, it is being used as instructional space, so everything at CMS is forging ahead.
Okay. You know what, we had something scheduled for CMS, right, like 5 days after we had to close schools. Is there a way to run a simulated production, like some of the, to know if the systems are working? We haven't really been able to give it a good test because we've not been able to.
I know the one item, the housekeeping item that left is the training to be done for the lights and the rigging, which the contractor is coordinating with James Lawrence, and the lighting and rigging vendors. So that is, I think the rigging meeting is next week, and I'm not sure when the light training is.
Right.
But I know that's all underway so that they can, I guess that you would say, give it a dry run so that they know how to operate everything.
Right. Yeah. Is a dry run sufficient? Like, I was almost envisioning having our high schoolers go down and do the Hunchback of Notre Dame as if, not all of them, but run through the lights, run through the sound, run through the curtain movement. If something is going to break, it's not going to be just one little pull on a switch or a curtain.
That part is above my job description, but I will verify that with James Lawrence as to what he wants to do.
Let me rephrase the question. What's our warranty on some of this equipment?
Oh, it is usually 1 to 2 years. So we, and from the CO, which was, in August. So we have a year to go yet.
Okay. So, we need to get in there and really run it through its paces because we may not be able to do a full play down there.
Yeah. Okay.
I just don't want to end up a year and a half from now and saying, oh gosh, had you just come in a month ago, we would have been covered, which is the
Okay.
story of my life on returns. So if we can run through the paces, I mean, I just think of Hunchback as it was the last play we did here, and it really used every switch and every button and every sound. You don't have to bring the big bell back in. So if you wouldn't mind, Peter, just check into that.
Will
I
do.
don't want the warranty to run out and then we're screwed.
Peter, or I don't know who, Mike, Jill, anyone, pipe in. We were kind of in the tails of finishing up that auditorium right when schools went out, and I think it would be really a nice effort to maybe take videos and pictures for the public to be able to see the finished product. Taxpayers paid for it. We're not able to bring people in, but I think it's a beautiful space. Kids will be back on that stage at some point. I think it would really be nice if people could have a chance to take a look and see the inside and maybe put it up on the website.
I like this. I can punt a lot of things to James Lawrence and ask him to
Okay,
take some pictures and have
It's
them,
not going to be me who's going
and
to.
have them put up on the website. That's a great idea. Thank you.
We can put it up on the big screen here too before our next meeting.
We could also do our next meeting at the middle school.
Okay. Double check with Connor, but that would be great.
Who said that?
Connor said I get paid either way. All right, excellent. Anything else for Peter on construction? No, good, excellent. We're going to move over to committee reports. Personnel, Ms. Chigarelli?
So we met on September 9th, is that correct? And just talked about any of the updates that we had with any personnel, any leaves, any additional leaves and/or reversal of leaves, and just kind of where we were with status of personnel before the school opening.
Excellent, thank you.
I don't know when we meet again. Whenever Beth tells us to.
Yeah, really.
Uh-huh.
Well, yeah, it's probably not on the schedule
Could be
yet.
any time.
But I know, Beth, I know you've been working super hard, and I know you haven't slept since March trying to staff up. So I hate to ask this, but I know we were on a razor's edge with staffing, and how do we look now? Same razor's edge or a little?
I think we're in good order
Okay.
as of this moment.
Good order? Okay.
Yeah.
Again, thank you for your tireless efforts. I know you've been doing 18-hour days, so thank you. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it. Excellent. So curriculum, Ms. Kenny?
We met last Wednesday on the 16th. We discussed the instructional websites that were designed to support students and staff for the school year. Heather Rocco also joined our meeting, and she did a presentation to us about a CEF grant that she was working on. It is for an event called One Book. It will take place at CMS, and the idea is that everyone at CMS, from students, teachers, administrators, support staff, would all read one book at one time. The book chosen is called Ghost Boys by Jewel Parker Rhodes. This event will take place in the spring of 2021. This book was chosen over the summer with a group of teachers because it was well written and it was very timely for everything that's been going on. The story is about 12-year-old Jerome, who is shot by a police officer who mistakes his toy gun for a real threat. As a ghost, he observes the devastation that's been unleashed on his family and community in the wake of what they see as an unjust and brutal killing. The team is also looking to see if the author will be able to make a virtual visit to our district. And lastly, Karen Chase is working on determining the next steps for our work in equity. Our first step is taking an assessment of our current district practices, and one of the things that we are going to be doing is at the October 12th BOE meeting, Ms. Rocco is going to be sharing how diverse the texts in the ELA curriculum are.
In addition, and Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, the visiting author is going to provide professional development for teachers at the middle school or cohorts to work with them? Yes.
The grant includes funding for, I believe her name is Dr. Parker, to come in and work with the teachers and the whole staff with regard to how to discuss a community read of sensitive nature.
Good. Thank you.
Excellent, thanks. Any questions for Lada or Karen? No. Okay, excellent. Moving over to, I think, Finance and Facility. In Matt's absence, Bradley, would you mind?
Yeah, no problem. Finance and Facilities met on Wednesday, the 16th. We discussed extracurriculars and how those activities would take place. We discussed and got an update from Peter on the ventilation in the different buildings and the equipment and how it's working with the new higher MERV filters. We discussed athletics, including transportation, events, and facilities surrounding athletics and how those would work. And we went into a spending update on all COVID-related items and PPE. We discussed at length.
Excellent, thank you. Brad, when we get to the agenda items, do you mind moving
Yeah, no
those as well? And I think there's a couple of donations, if you don't mind calling those out, 8 or 9. 8, number 8, number 9.
Yep.
Fantastic. Moving over to Mike Ryan for Policy and Planning.
Okay, Policy and Planning met on September 9th. You can see from the agenda, we have 5 or 6 first, second reading and adoptions on the agenda, and we also have some 17 or so first readings. But at the meeting, we discussed remote learning options for families. We updated the face covering policy. We revised the Restart and Recovery Plan for full-time remote students. And we also discussed athletics, some guidelines, transportation for athletic events, and we also discussed Kruger Weekend.
Okay. And Mike, just a quick question. The face coverings policy that was updated, was that just to clarify some points, or were those?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. And Dr. LaSousse, it's my understanding that the face coverings, the kids have been phenomenal, just top drawer on being able to. So thank you for everybody that practiced wearing their face masks over the summer. It really helped. Great. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mike Ryan or anybody on policy? No. Excellent. Okay. Does anybody have any liaison reports? I do not have any. No. Okay. Excellent. Then I make a motion to move the public session on August 24th. Did we have an executive session, Peter? On the 24th? It's listed here.
Yes.
We did, okay. Then I make a motion to pass August 24th public and executive session. I think Mr. Ryan was the only one not present, correct, Peter? Okay,
That doesn't matter.
okay. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let's try that again. All those in favor?
Aye.
Little life. Opposed? Okay, here we go. It's a tough crowd. All right, so we have our first opportunity. Oh,
601.
thanks, Peter. Okay, so we have our first opportunity for public commentary. Notice of the public's comment, a hearing of the citizens during the public commentary section of the agenda is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about issues which are or are not topics scheduled for the current meeting. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to a reasonable length of time. And just as a reminder, this is your time to make any comments that you would like to the board. We'll likely, it won't be a back and forth Q&A, but I don't know where, the microphone's in the back there, right on that aisle, if anybody would like to step up. And if you can, just make it a reasonable amount of time so all can be heard.
Microphone is in the back on my right, and the sign-in sheet is on the table to
Everybody's pointing to it.
the left of the microphone. And each person, please state your name before you start addressing the board, please.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Whitney. I am the grant chair for the Chatham Education Foundation this year. So Cheryl Whitney, grant chair for the Chatham Education Foundation, also known as CEF. As Dr. Lususa was saying, there isn't a lot of opportunity for good news, and I thought I'd come and share some good news about some of the grants that we've had recently and some of the positive feedback we've gotten to them. As grants chair, I get a lot of emails from people who are touched by the grants, and no one else gets to see that. And so I thought it might be nice for you to hear some of the nice things that we're hearing about the grants that we've put out recently. So the first feedback is on the Clear Mask for Clear Communication grant by Karen Lester. It funded 200 washable masks with clear fronts to various teachers and staff throughout the district. We heard from Washington Avenue School kindergarten teacher Lisa Kressler, who received one of the masks, and she said, "I just wanted to thank you for the masks with the clear windows for us that teach the little ones. It's so important that they see our mouths moving when we are trying to teach them the different sounds of the letters. Many thanks and stay safe." We've also heard about another grant that we gave, again, also last month. That was the outdoor classroom at Milton Avenue School. And so we've heard that they're using the classroom quite a number of different ways. They're actually using it for one-on-one assessment and work, in addition to class settings for snack and mask breaks, and they're also doing read-alouds and discussion for classes. So it seems like that's being put to good use as well. Also, we received another email on a grant that we actually gave 2 years ago, and it's a 21st century mathematics classroom in the Chatham Middle School. It was submitted by math teacher Carmelo Sortino, and he thanked us for pen tablets that we had purchased and said, "I just wanted to share that these tablets have been a tremendous help to our teaching staff and students. I had that opportunity over the summer to demonstrate how these tablets could enhance our instructional practice to some of the teachers in the mathematics department. It has really changed how we will prepare and deliver some of our instructional components this year. Thank you again for the hard work that you do for our students, staff, and school community." And Mr. Sortino actually made a video demonstrating how the pen tablets are to be used, how they use the pen tablets with teaching, and that's going to be on CEF's website along with details amongst all the other grants that we give to the district. And I just wanted to take a minute and talk about how CEF selects grants. It starts with grant applications from educators in the district, staff, teachers, principals, administrators, who have an innovative idea to improve learning in the district. Then it goes through a careful approval process within the district and within CEF, and then finally it comes here to the Board of Education for approval. So CEF has already given over 31,000 in grants this school year, And we have 4 grants currently in the review process, including the one that was mentioned earlier. And there's likely more to come still. So it's going to be a big year, I think, this year for grants to the district. If anyone listening would like to help support the grants, there's currently a Fund the Need fundraising campaign for the Chatham Education Foundation, as donations from the public allow us to pay for the grants that we give back to the district. So on behalf of the Chatham Education Foundation, I thank all of you and all the teachers, staff, and administration in the district for all that you do to help our students reach higher. Thank you.
Joe Bazralian, Fairfax Terrace. Thanks, Cheryl. It's great to hear because hearing stuff like that gets me re-pumped up to make that Chatham Education Foundation gift. You know it's so important, but then when you hear it, it gives you that extra bump of enthusiasm. So thanks, Cheryl. Really, I'm here to say thank you to the superintendent, the administration, you, the Board of Education, and the staff, because what you've achieved for us in the last 2 weeks has made such a difference. I can't speak for the thousands of people, but I have a feeling, I think from the people I've spoken to, the experience is similar. It's made a difference in my children's lives to either be going every day, as my youngest one does, every other day, as my middle schooler does, and having gone in that first day, my high schooler, but also having the real anticipation that she will be going back. It makes such an emotional difference. It brings sanity, brings optimism. You know that. That's why, Dr. D'Souza, you and everyone worked so hard to make this happen. Not just hard work, but I know it's been an emotional labor that you've all undertaken, and it's been a life-rearranging labor. So thank you. Thank you also for the reports of the curriculum update, released partial on October 12th. And thank you for the exciting news of the Springs book of Ghost Boys. I just quickly Googled it. Somehow it now works in this new auditorium. And it looks like a great choice. So I'm going home to read it. At least I'll start it. So thank you very much. So, and I guess, you probably remember me as the person who came in with a green backpack with copies of 5 books back over the summer that I read out of the sort of the 35 on this genre of justice in America, specifically racial justice. These were the 5 that I really pulled out. So I thought if I highlighted the 2 that were the easiest to get into, that were the quickest to read, but also the most eye-opening and sort of thought process enhancing, they were Me and White Supremacy by Layla Saad. It's not a book about blame. It's a book about just thought processes and evaluation. It's wonderful. And White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. So I've spoken to a lot of people about these books. We've had book circles in town about with these books, and it's been, the discussions have been so enriching and so just heart-filling that if you don't go back and engage in a long personal course of study, but you wanted to do something in this area, these are the 2 books out of the others that I would recommend. I also have a couple other thoughts which I wrote down, so maybe I'll just read these. I think just going about our extremely busy lives and thinking of ourselves as well-informed people, and I know I'm among these, at least thinking of myself as well-informed people, but it doesn't equip us. That thought doesn't equip us to create informed perspectives on matters of racial justice in America. Just the way thinking we know about this virus doesn't make us have an informed opinion. We defer to experts. So by learning more and becoming conversant with the experts, we do ourselves and our district so much service. So through these conversations I've been having, much more in the last year or 2 than ever before, at least for me, I found that people with the most strongly held and dismissive attitudes on these subjects are often those who have done the least amount of study on the subject. So we should strive, I've used this quote before from Martin Luther King Jr., we should strive to not be people of goodwill, yet with shallow understanding. So I think if any of us in this room, all adults in the district, can create just a little bit more space in our lives in this area to do some personal study, which for many has never really systematically occurred throughout our education and doesn't occur through media that we seem to absorb. It only really occurs through deliberate study. I think it will do us a world of good. I'm on a learning journey, and I'm greatly appreciated that there's so many incredible new materials in this area. So just to finish, a note of thanks again for your work for our young people, and actually probably as much for the adults and our own well-being, mental well-being, that our children are really doing the best they can. But also, thank you for what you're doing for really the future of American society. That's all. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, Joe. Any additional? Oh, there we go.
Hello, my name is Zoe Hurrell. I'm a resident of Chatham Borough, and I also graduated from CHS in 2017. Yes?
We're having, at least I am having trouble hearing you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
That's much better.
Okay, great. I'll start over. Sorry. Hello, my name is Zoe Hurrell. I'm a resident of Chatham Borough and a 2017 graduate of CHS. Additionally, I have a vested interest in the school district of the Chathams because my little sister is currently a student at Milton Avenue School. I'm coming to speak to the Board of Education today to once again urge the board to adopt anti-racism into its curriculum and dedicate time to anti-racism training for its faculty and staff. From my understanding of the last meeting in August, the board is planning to do an evaluation of the curriculum in October, which I encourage. I'd also like to echo Joe's comments about the common read for CMS. I think that's just great. I'm really happy to hear that. However, I would like to urge that an evaluation of any of the curriculum by the board alone would be insufficient. As far as I am aware, no one on the board is an expert in the field of anti-racism, so correct me if I'm wrong, but that's to my knowledge. And therefore cannot do justice to any evaluation of the curriculum to the degree which anti-racism is included. Rather, eliciting the guidance of a professional in the anti-racism field and allowing for the creation of a subcommittee with student involvement would be a good start, per the demands sent a few months ago. I understand that this time period in particular does not make the job of anyone working on the board, or frankly any educators at all that easy. But the quality of education cannot take a back burner, and I think everyone would agree with that. While a Chatham education is a privilege, and I am thankful every single day that I had the opportunity to receive a Chatham education. It has afforded me so many opportunities, and I do not take that lightly. I would like to say that America has a systemic racism problem, so a student can receive an amazing education, get all these great opportunities, do amazingly on the SATs and the ACTs, get into a really prestigious school, and they can still come out of a K through 12 education not knowing anything or nearly enough about the history and treatment of Black and Indigenous people of color in this country. And so that's really why I personally am urging the Board of Education to really do a review, because that is so important. Chatham is a town where the vast majority of people are privileged and white, and that's not a mistake. That's de facto segregation. And not one class I had during my time here, and I don't know that that's true anymore, but not one class that I had talked about that. And meanwhile, I saw white kids yelling the N-word and other slurs in the halls with no repercussions. So, that's something that needs to be addressed. Thank you for your time.
Sign in. Thank you.
Any additional public commentary? If not, we can close the public comment and, Mr. Carr.
Lisa Derosa, Chatham Borough Board of Health. I just want to start with a positive message. I talked to Megan Avalon, who's, as you know, the health officer, and even with the cases that you've had in the high school, there has been no school-related transmission, which is a good thing. And she was saying that's due to the hard work, diligence, and relationship that the Department of Health, both township and the borough, the Board of Ed, and Dr. LaSouza all have to, and the masks and the mask wearing, the desk shields, the social distancing, the hand washing, that's the reason why here. So it's no accident from all that you have said that the school has opened. And we were also discussing the process is not perfect, but we have the best public health practices for now. And if I could, I would just like to say, if we look back to March and April and the idea of community spread, and it was really surging, March, April, May, June, if you look at the numbers, it came down because I think as a community we really gathered together and, you know, just did what we needed to do with the social distancing and the masks. So to that point, I would say as a community, we still have to pay attention to where the virus is locally, and we need a lot of public engagement to get on top of it. The virus, as you see, is capable of coming back, and that it is where the importance of being able to trace and isolate is very important. If we do this and we do it well, then these surges are kept small and they are dealt with quickly, and life can go on, school can stay open. So I do think, and to Dr. LaSouza's point on the numbers, in our Board of Health, we were discussing almost a dashboard because we've seen the numbers, we know the ages of the numbers, and the ages have been youth from, I would say, June, July, August. And we also talk about, we don't want shaming, we want none of that, we just want to get rid of this. And I think if we look at what the community did in the beginning, we got there, and we're all sick of it, you know, but I think we have to remember that and empower people to look at the numbers again and say we have the power, and it's masks, it's social distancing, and it's our hands. Those are the tools we have along with the tracing. So I just want to say my board appreciates Dr. LaSouza. We just, whatever we can do. And Megan Avalon and Mike Fitzpatrick, who's in the township, the health officer, if you'd like to do a live event, ask the experts where the community can ask questions. However, use us, however we can facilitate in the community getting messaging and engagement going, which is what we talk about every month. So that's what I'd like to say. And thank you all. And I know it's head spinning. I don't know how you do it, you know, but thank you. I get nervous talking on the, that's what cracks.
But you did it. Thank you, Lisa. Some people get nervous and won't do it. Well done. Very good. Any additional public comments? Oh, thank you, Stuart.
Hi, my name is Stuart Carr from 3 Crestwood Drive in Chatham Township, New Jersey. I have much more mundane activity here, moving around dirt and moving around grass, following up on an email exchange with Mr. Tequila and Mr. Gilfillan and Dr. LaSouza. Wanted to get a handle on the timing of a meeting for the rehab of the Chatham High School baseball field and make sure everybody's on the same page with respect to Chatham baseball parents, athletic department, administration, board, and if necessary, Chatham Township Department of Public Works. So following up on that, we have timing for a meeting and the appropriate people who would be at that meeting to make sure everybody is on the same page.
I've been a little preoccupied with the reopening of school.
Understood.
Maintaining all of the equipment and making sure everyone, and bus schedules. I will reach out to the parties mentioned to see if we can piece together a game plan where we can improve the condition of the fields at a reasonable cost.
Understood. So the idea would be that all parties would be in the same room at the same time, so there's no cross-talking and missing things and blind spots, meaning the parents and the athletic director and the administrator and the facilities folks if necessary, and board representation by Mr. Gilfillan, so we understand what the budgetary requirements are. Apparently, there's a paper that was put together by some parents for the athletic directors reading, and apparently he understands that. Just want to make sure everything is there so we don't go year after year like apparently we have been doing, when not getting that thing upgraded the way it should be to appropriate standards. Again, we're not Yankee Stadium per our discussion, but there is a middle ground. We have a Shunpike Field data point. We have Livingston High School. We have Milburn High School, which are steps above Chatham, and yet, and they don't have materially higher budgets to my understanding, and if it is a higher budget, we should know about it, but we should be able to get this thing up to speed for benefit of the baseball community here, for the kids who are coming up to be playing baseball, and also the kids who are playing right now. So any timing on when that meeting may take place and who those people may be, again, there's no rush on it, but would like to make sure we get something pinned down so it doesn't go on month after month and year after year.
Thanks, Stuart. Thank you.
No, I just want to get the timing on the setting up the meeting.
Yeah, we have no timeline on that. And we have no timeline on meeting. We have no timeline on budget. We have expended hundreds of thousands of dollars on PPE. There's no way Peter can give you an answer right now on when a meeting's going to be, who's going to be attending, and how much money we can spend, or if we can even have baseball.
That's understood. Well,
Okay.
we do have a commitment, though, to have that meeting at some point with those people.
If there's no spring season, it's unlikely we'll have that meeting.
But at some point, we will have the meeting with the appropriate people. That's what I want to just make sure we understand.
Stuart, it's just too soon to give you a definitive answer
Okay.
on how that's going to unfold. I'm trying to get to October 1st.
I appreciate that very much. But again, just want to keep a one mundane thing here. At some point, just make sure we address it.
All right, thanks, Stuart.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Stuart. Don't worry, Stuart won't bite. You can go. Go ahead, Jane. Oh, you can go around the hallway if you want. You want to pass?
Jane Devlin. I also want to begin by thanking administration and the board for everything you have been doing to keep the students safe and thriving, all the time and effort you put in. And I continue to support the idea of in-school sessions wherever possible, as we're calling the hybrid learning experience. So I, again, just wanted to acknowledge with respect and appreciation everyone's efforts. I also just wanted to touch, please, on a little bit that was said this evening in anticipation of the October meeting about some curriculum matters. I would support exploration of the curriculum and perhaps refinement and changes. I would always support that with any aspects of the curriculum, and I think historically the school district doesn't say stagnant. I've always found that that administration has looked over the years at maybe a math curriculum, a language arts curriculum changes. In this instance, we're talking maybe about some social studies or language arts curriculum adjustments regarding some current events and social justice issues. But because I don't think it necessarily means that the administration is not exploring curriculum changes. And in fact, just by what was said tonight from the board, initial steps are being taken to address these timely issues. But that said, I don't necessarily feel that that cannot be accomplished by the expertise of our administration and board. I think it's important to begin in partnership and have a trust that the administration, the teachers, and the board are acting in good faith. We're not expecting, at least, well, let me say me, I'm not expecting administration to be proficient in all areas of diversity and race. But as educators, I do think the administration, the teachers, board representatives probably do know where to look and research in the field of academia to help bring best practices or better practices to the district in this critical area. I don't think going out of the starting gate, we should assume that administration or teachers are over here and some of the public requests for awareness in the area are over there. I think we should give administration a chance to do what they've always have done excellently. Look into matters, see where that could bring, see what we could bring into the district. We shouldn't assume, because you're just starting at your end of exploring changes, that right off you're not going to bring in a professional, or right off you're not going to look at in the right areas. I do think, again, advocacy and speaking out is really important, but also working together and pausing a little bit and giving the administration and the other educators a chance to do what they do best. Report back and then see where we're at. In closing, to switch gears a little bit, but somewhat to stay on the same topic, I do just want to respectfully reiterate what I did say at the last board meeting, that I do personally feel if people cannot be at this board meeting, particularly college students, I think it is important, even if they're writing directly to the board, in some way their comments can be memorialized publicly rather than just piecemeal extrapolated, because I just think it would enhance communication. I might suggest, you don't have to adopt my suggestions, but I would like to please suggest that if they wrote a letter, maybe you could limit the length of the letter, so it would coincide, if they were reading here in public, that they stayed within like a 2-minute time frame. So don't write really long letters. Or perhaps you would have a proxy. So if the college student couldn't be here, but a volunteer in the community would come to the microphone and volunteer to read the letter, if it was in the guidelines of the 3 minutes everyone gets, that might be another way to accomplish open communication. And when I suggest that letters written to the board that are meant to be part of public record, stay public record, I am not just talking about issues of diversity and social justice matters. I'm really talking about any issues that might come to the board's attention that the public asks to be part of the public record. I'm not talking about, though, if just an individual parent wrote the board private to their student. But I guess I would just like a little more public dialogue to stay public, especially in these times when maybe everyone can't get out so easily, either because they're in college or it's just harder to come due to quarantine matters or whatnot. So I just want to touch on that and just end by saying, really, thank you. Thank you for all the ways you're keeping the children safe. And thank you, while still doing that you're not relegating everything else to the back seat. And that was, to me, exemplified tonight by, in good faith, how you just informed us that next month's meeting, that the curriculum committee, this is on the curriculum committee's radar about the social justice matters. So thank you again.
Thanks, Jane. Thank you, Jane. Any additional public comments? No, there's another opportunity at the end of the meeting for if something strikes your fancy and you want to speak again. Just to make one comment, Peter, what's the date of our October meeting? Do you recall?
12th.
October 12th, great. And we had said that at that time, we're going to talk about, we're going to cover some of the curriculum and equality and racial justice. So just to reiterate what we said before, the first step is to examine what we're doing, what we're currently doing, what we've been doing, what we're working on, what's in flight now, and then recognize where we have work to do, areas where we can improve. So I look forward to that, that meeting, which will be televised and taped, and folks can listen to it as much as they want, either live or over and over again. I'm going to move on to the agenda items, and then we can go over to board business. So first up is personnel. Ann?
I'd like to move agenda items A1 to A19 on the regular agenda, as well as 20 to 25 on the addendum.
Okay, thank you. Oh, my goodness. Been busy, huh, Beth? Any questions? And just a reminder, these minutes are posted on Friday afternoon, so if it appears we go through them quickly, the agendas are posted on Friday before the meetings. Does anybody have any questions for Beth or Dr. LaSouza on any personnel matters? Nope. Okay, seeing none. Peter, would you mind?
Still waiting for a second.
Oh,
I second.
Oh,
there you go. Well, then, you know what? It's just in the interest of time. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Excellent. Okay, very good.
duly noted, A1 through 19 and A20 to 25 on the addendum passes 7-0.
Thank you. Moving over to curriculum, Lottie.
Finance.
Oh, finance. I'm sorry, Bradley.
I'd like to move B1 to B11 and B13 to B15.
I'll second it.
Okay, and I also wanted to highlight two donations we received. One is from the Chatham Athletic Booster Club in the amount of $2,700 for NFHS broadcasting network cameras and installation of that equipment, as well as the Data Vision Group that donated $600 for the robotics team to purchase necessary items such as replacement parts, supplies, and team-related items.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Peter, do you have any idea where the cameras would be going, the network cameras and installation of the equipment?
That is, the digital divide funding supports the, all of the software, all of the computers that were bought in order to enhance the remote learning for instruction.
Okay.
I was distracted by Dr. LaSouza, but you're talking about the digital divide, the resolution.
Yeah, I'm just questioning number 8. Not questioning, I'm just curious, and we could talk about it later. The boosters.
Oh, the boosters donation is for the taping and filming of sporting events so that when there is reduced capacity, they can be broadcast out so people can watch it.
Okay. You know what, it just mentions installation of equipment. Is it fixed at a location, or can it be moved from, you know?
That in my conversations with Mo, I do not have the answer if it's portable or this is just for the gym. So
Yeah, no, I was just curious. Given that we may have to move some contests outside, I was just curious if, you know, we could accommodate that. Nothing like wrestling under the stars. But, okay, very good. Does anybody have any questions for Peter or Bradley? No, very good. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? No.
Duly noted, agenda items B1 through 11 and 13 to 15 pass 7-0.
Thank you. Lotta, now you're up.
I'd like to move action item C1 to C3 for vote.
Second. 1 and 2, tuition, okay. Can't really talk about any of that. Okay, a little more enthusiasm this time. All those in favor? Aye. Ooh, opposed? Abstentions? No.
Duly noted, C1 to C3 passes 7-0.
Okay, very good. Over to you, Mr. Ryan. Maybe you'll get a better reaction.
I'd like to move items D1 and D2 on the regular agenda. And also there's an addendum that's labeled D1 for policy 8601.
Michelle seconded it, Peter. I don't know if you heard her.
I thought it was Ann.
Again, these are all posted. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Ryan on any of the policies? No? Okay, let's remember, we got through 2 weeks of school. So I'll try again. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Opposed? Abstentions?
Duly noted D1 and D2, and the addendum item for D1 passes 7-0.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Now we have an opportunity for board business. Any additional comments or questions about anything that was talked about? Oh, Ann?
I just want to echo Jill's comments as well as Dr. LaSousa's comments about the COVID-related things at the high school and the fact that these students and parents have been so helpful and so forthcoming, and I want to commend them for that. I also want to wish all of these students that have tested positive well. I hope they're feeling well, and that nobody has any long-term effects from this. And I just kind of want to add, I know it's been super stressful for people, but I really want to urge everybody to think twice before they are posting on social media. The social media frenzy since this happened has been absolutely out of control. These kids have been shamed, these parents have been shamed, and there have been false statements made, and it's really, really counterproductive. I fear that it's going to lead to other people not reporting if they do have positive results, because people are afraid of whatever other people in the community are saying about them. And you know, we all know the negative effects of social media comments, especially on these teenagers and adolescents. And I think we need to be very conscious of their emotional well-being and the fact that shaming kids for having a virus, whether they made a poor decision or not, is not going to be productive for anybody. So I just want people to think twice before they post. I know people are stressed out. I understand this is not an easy situation, but we really need to come together as a community, and shaming and posting false statements about things that did not happen is not helpful for anybody. So I just want everybody to think twice about that and remember that we are dealing with kids, and we are also dealing with an illness. This is not, something to be taken lightly. So hopefully they will all recover okay. And I think we just need to all come together and be kind to each other about this. This is not easy for anybody.
Oh, thanks, Ann. Go ahead, Mike.
And that was very well said. And I just want to, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but we're not a college or university. We don't have a health center. We don't have students coming to our office and we're the ones administering a test or processing results or have real-time, data on who's sick and who isn't and where they live. So there are 3 ways that we are coming to know of a positive case. The first way is that a parent takes their child to a testing center for a rapid test and immediately, essentially, knows the result and informs us, and then follows the protocols that they've been given from their physician with follow-up from the Department of Health. The second way is the parent takes the student for a test, but it takes a week to get the result. And so in that instance, the parent might tell us, my child has been exposed or may be exposed. We've gone for a test where we'll let you know when the result comes in. And the third way is that the parent doesn't notify us, and we hear from the Department of Health 7 or 10 days after the fact, because a parent or child doesn't have to tell anybody if they went to a testing center to get a test. And then it's not until the Department of Health registers the test in the municipality that we end up knowing about it. My point in all of that is it all hinges on the parents and the students and the importance that they feel safe in confiding in us or sharing with us information that can then help keep other people safe and healthy also. So you couldn't have said it any better, but just from the backside view of it in terms of how we're coming to know, we don't have some fully staffed medical center operating 24/7 in the district. We are relying on the parents, and our ability to remain open will only happen, or can only go as far as the parents and students will take us. And they won't take us very far if they feel fearful or don't want to come forward or feel threatened or feel like we're not going to work with them to try to act in the good of everyone. So thank you for bringing that up before we conclude this meeting.
Go ahead.
I was going to say something similar to Ann, but another thing I want to say is, and I think I can speak on behalf of the board members that are here and not here, we truly want to thank the administration, the teachers, the custodians, every single player on the field to get these schools opened and to keep them opened. I know in the community you are grateful that your kids are coming to school, whether virtually or in person, but there is not a person involved that is not working far beyond the hours of their contracted day to take care of these kids and make sure they're safe and that they're learning. Their teachers are going home, they're educating their own children that could be virtual, they're putting them to bed, and then they're turning their computers on to get ready for the next day. And I am so proud of our teachers, of our administration, of every person that has worked to make this happen. And I think we all, if you see a teacher, if you see anyone, say thank you, because they're working hard. Your administrators, some of them have not taken a day off since March 13th. And they're doing it because they care. So thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Thank you. It has been a Herculean effort on everybody's part to make this happen. And just to piggyback a little bit on Ann's comment about posting, I just want to remind the students out there, unfortunately, if you put something out on social media that's threatening or could qualify as a HIB, unfortunately then, you're going to find yourself on the wrong end of a HIB investigation, and we don't want that at all. So please be mindful when you're posting. Maybe put it down for 24 hours and think about it. But again, if it meets the criteria, we have to do an investigation. Aside from it not being nice, you could find yourself with a mark in your permanent record for harassment, intimidation, and bullying. And Dr. LaSousa, you had mentioned that if a parent or a student doesn't notify us, and we don't find out for a week to 10 days, and a student has been, in school, if they don't notify us, the end result is that we have to close the buildings. So we either work together or we'll be shut down in no time. As Lisa mentioned and Karen mentions, community spread. We would not be able to control it if people don't, come forward or just quarantine until they know. It'll be a moot point. We will have to shut every building, and we will be virtual until June. And I fear if we don't do the right thing, next September we're going to be in this exact same boat. So we either pull together or we go down together.
And on the other end of the equation, as a former principal, the students need to do their part. So don't vape. That's dumb. That's not going to be helpful. And when it comes to a respiratory virus, don't pack together when you don't need to and you're not wearing a face covering. Stay outside. Try to keep some distance between yourself. Don't share stuff. Don't travel in a car with the windows up and breathing each other's air for 20 minutes at a time. They're all common sense precautions that we can take. We recognize that teenagers don't always make the same choices that a 47-year-old bald man like me might make. But they can take some common sense precautions. And if you're going to get together in the backyard around the fire pit or whatever. You don't have to get together in a place that's confined where there's no ventilation. And, try to exercise as much common sense and precautions as you can, because we all want to be in school. We want the students to be back in this building as soon as possible. And then we want them to stay there. And we want to be open as long as we possibly can. So we all have to do our parts and try to make the best choices that we can.
Excellent. Okay. Go ahead, Michelle.
Posting, that goes for adults too. When people are posting on Facebook, on the community forum, and it's pretty clear, and when you're shaming kids, it's evident, and your name is attached to it. So think twice. These are your neighbors who live in this community. You're going to see them, possibly at a school event, possibly in Kings, possibly at an athletic field. So think before you press send.
Thank you. And it takes a lot of energy to post. It takes a lot of time and energy. Instead of spending that time pointing fingers, Let's reach out to our neighbors. Let's reach out to our friends. How about the first thing you post is, how can I help? How can I help make this better? So that's the first thing I want to see people post. How can I help? It's simple. Reach out to your neighbors, reach out to your friends. Again, we will not get through this unless we get through it together. Either we succeed together or we're going down together. So it's up to you. All right. Any additional board business? Anybody want to circle back on the snow days comment? No? Okay, we could let that go till December. Okay, so we have our second opportunity for public commentary. If anybody would want to circle back.
Good evening. Bill Heap. I'd like to say first that I like the new venue. I think it's great. It allows more people to come. Second is there was a party in town that shut down the high school. We've been discussing that. I have a short story before I comment on it. When my daughter was in college, she belonged to a sorority. The sorority had a fundraising gala. My wife and I attended. It was off campus. They piled us into buses, drove us out 20 minutes into the countryside to a winery. It was a nice venue with a barn, and we had 4 hours of fun. At 12 o'clock, when the parents were turning into pumpkins, they piled us onto the bus to drive us back to campus. As the bus was leaving the parking lot, a young woman, a sorority sister, tore up the aisle, demanded that the bus driver stop. The door flew open. She stepped out and proceeded to blow her groceries all over the parking lot. That wasn't the worst of it, though, because she made the mistake of taking a seat in the back of the bus, so she had to walk down the aisle in her cocktail dress, looking like death warmed over. I can guarantee you she will never, ever do that again. I don't know who the folks were that had the party. It doesn't matter. I'm sure that it burned up the Facebook world. I'm not on that. You can probably find out who they are. They have had their own walk of shame, and it doesn't do any good, I agree with Ms. Weber, to pile on or to have any form of punishment. It's absolutely ridiculous. We have to move ahead. You have done a great job. Everything has worked well except for this. Maybe in an odd way, these folks have done us a favor by getting this over with up front. They have maybe done more than this board or the administration could in getting people to concentrate their mind on the situation at hand. If they have a lick of sense, they will take a lesson from this and not repeat these kinds of things. I think, considering the fact that maybe the New York City school system is in chaos right now and maybe on the verge of collapse, we have done extremely well. The lower grades are functioning. We have to get up and start over again in the high school next week. We have to be prepared to fail again, but so what? Let's keep the finger pointing and the I told you so's to a minimum. I am in manufacturing. I can't tell you how many beautiful widgets I've made over the years that looked great. If it were a beauty contest, they'd win a prize. But they ended up in the garbage because they didn't work. We have to make sure that we get up every time we fail and start all over again. This presents us with an opportunity. This is not on you, it's on others. So you did everything right so far, and congratulations for that, and thank you for all the time that you've put in.
Thank you, Bill. Any additional comments? I think we got everybody in. Oh, there we go. A new player. Introduce yourself, and just introduce yourself when you get to the mic.
Bob Asacchia. I'm a parent and a father here in Chatham, and I'd like to thank the board. Sorry? I said I'd like to thank the board. Sure, Bob Asacchia. First, I'd like to thank the board for all that they've done in these trying times with COVID. You've done an exemplary job. and I'd like to thank you for all the time and effort that you put into it. The reason I'm here tonight is to address some demands that are being placed upon the board and to the people that live in the town. One more time? Okay, no problem. I said the reason I'm here tonight is to address some of the demands that I saw from the Board of Education meeting last month, having to do with demanding that the school teach racism to our children in Chatham. And I have a little bit of a different take on that topic. And the reason I say that is because as I follow a number of people on social media, such as Kingface, Little Wayne, Jesse Lee Peterson, Leo Terrell, Walter Williams, Colonel Alan West, Jason Whitlock, Officer Tatum, Clarence Thomas, Thomas Sowell, Burgess Owens, David Webb. I understand that if systematic racism is here in the United States and in Chatham, all those mentioned above may suggest differently. They may even suggest, but they don't have proof, or they don't believe that proof exists. It's been pointed out to me that if someone doesn't agree with your opinions that are loosely spun, you are deplorable. If there is racism in Chatham, where is the proof? Where is your proof that the district has to address it? If you have proof, let's address it. Let's root it out. Please don't accuse it of vacuum. Let's address it on an individual level. In addition, I think you are suggesting that if there is racism, it's on all sides, and not with one particular class of people. Personally, I don't think Elvis or Hoffer are alive, but if you think they are, please show the proof. So my demands are simple. Offer a choice to the students if they want to attend your class in a neutral location, say the public library. In addition, please show proof versus your narrative about racism and who the culprits are. If systematic racism exists, it has to be on all sides. You wouldn't demand that someone who does not abuse alcohol to attend AA unless there is proof. People on the other side of your narrative refuse to bow and pledge allegiance to your demands. I am willing to learn. I have an open mind. Please help me, and let's try our best to eradicate it. If you are making demands and assuming you can do the thinking for a whole generation of people, let's be careful, as one parent made reference to in the last meeting. You are assuming a different class of people cannot think for themselves. Are you saying that they cannot be successful on their own without your demands? Are you questioning their capabilities? In a dog whistle manner, you are positing that a certain group of people are inferior and cannot do for themselves. You are suggesting because of me, they are not capable on their own. Quite frankly, I'm no better than anybody else. I have a very simple question. Did someone pay you to make these demands? I say, let's have an educated two-sided compromise and conversation. But just to give in to demands should not be allowed. I thank you all and stay safe, and thank you for all your efforts, what you've done for the town. Thank you, have a good night.
Thank you. You sign in? Great, thank you. If there's no additional public comments, I'm going to close the public commentary portion of the meeting. And just a reminder to the board, we have an executive session. Shouldn't be too long, so I make a motion to close the public session. Action will not be taken, correct, Mike? Action will not be taken. So let's reconvene in the cafeteria, or are we going to? Okay, it's bigger? Okay, fantastic. Okay, thank you everybody for coming. Please drive safely. Thanks, Connor. Thanks, Ryan.